Hello everyone, Macintosh here. The June playtest for Vanguard has finally come and gone. Unlike the previous playtests, this one lasted a little longer than the previous ones. It ran from the 20th of June to the 1st of July, which means it literally concluded just last week at the time of this video being recorded. The playtest was no longer referred to as the First Strike event, but instead labeled as the Solstice event, taking place on a new map along with a new weapon customization feature for testing purposes. There was a lot of feedback given by the community about the event, with players on Discord being very constructive with any criticism they have about the experience. They were very helpful in finding bugs and map glitches so quickly, and overall, having fun playtesting for CCP games. Starting with the map, CCP replaced the Carrion, or is it Cherion map, where it featured the wreckage of a bowhead, and replaced it with the Solstice map, where it featured the wreckage of a fallen upwell structure, possibly parts of the fallen skyhook. However, the biggest difference was the overall environment surrounding the wreckage. Unlike the Cherion map, which featured a seemingly barren planet with a dark gray appearance, the Solstice map takes place at an archipelago of small islands, surrounded by an ocean with vibrant colors, alien fauna, lava pools, acidic waters due to environmental contamination from the wreckage, and a lot of sunlight. The wreckage helped connect the different islands together as one, while each part of the archipelago features varying biomes and more verticality to the battlefield. This map came after CCP released a trailer featuring the onlining of an upwell skyhook, which later came under attack while the personnel on the ground came under assault by Vanguards landing on the planet's surface with drop pods. The map was tested very heavily in the extra time players had. Players have already reported problems, such as certain loot boxes that are just behind the red line for starters. Moving on, the weapon customization was a new feature introduced as part of the event. Players had access to an inventory system where they could store chipsets that functioned like modules for weapons. Each chipset had benefits and drawbacks, such as increasing weapon stability, fitting new optics, modifying the fire modes, and affecting weapon damage. While the new system was fun to try out, it had its problems. Notably, the limited inventory capacity, which forced players to resort to using lower tier chipsets or modules to get rid of them in combat, so they can have room for more important chipsets. This was not ideal for the players. The icons were a bit confusing at a glance from my personal perspective. Some players have noticed the color coding that traditionally identified rarity of items were changed up. This caused some confusion within the community, as many players have gotten used to the color coding system, often seen in Fortnite or practically any other game that has similar rarity mechanics. Players were also realizing the effect of the chipsets were being overridden by other chipsets depending on where along the grid they were placed. This caused some issues for players, such as fitting a semi-auto-fire chipset in the wrong slot and suddenly it won't work. However, on the plus side, players can spawn in with 2 different weapon loadouts, as well as starting the match with 3 clones in reserve instead of 2 when solo. CCP had to clarify early on that the chipsets you installed on your Core 80, the standard rifle of Vanguard, will stay with you throughout the deployment even if you die and lose all of your clones. The only chipsets that are dropped as loot are the ones you picked up in the current deployment. These are dropped from your Warclone's personal stash. Once you manage to successfully extract with the chipsets you found in your stash, you were presented with 2 inventory spaces, the hangar on one side and your personal inventory on the other. The hangar space always appeared to have enough space for all the chipsets you had extracted, but before you could return to the main lobby, you had to select which chipsets you were going to keep by simply moving them from the hangar to the personal inventory. There was where the problem came in. The inventory space was more limited than the hangar, and so this caused an unintentional meta to form where players intentionally loaded up lower grade chipsets onto their Core 80 rifles, just as a means of getting rid of them and save space for the higher grade chipsets. A couple of new game mechanics were introduced to the map during the Solstice playtesting event. The first mechanic appeared to be inspired by Deep Rock Galactic, where you literally called in a mining drill that would be dropped in via a dropship flying overhead. As a side note, the dropships were clearly models taken from the EVE Online The Prophecy trailer, which came out 10 years ago. Going back to the mining drill, it would land on the mining spot and anchor itself with 3 cables to the ground. While the drill was working, you had to check on the anchor points and complete a small mini game to keep the drill working at optimal conditions. Once the drill was complete, you will be given credits that are banked, according to the player guide CCP posted on their Discord. There were a couple of other mini games introduced by CCP Games during the playtest, such as hacking into secured containers in various forms, and even playing around with eggs. I'm not kidding with that one. The eggs were actually placeholders for cargo drones that roamed around the map, and those ended up being harmless, but not without turning into a weird form of entertainment for the players. I have a feeling CCP is going to leave some Easter eggs for us in the future. Overall, it felt like CCP was testing to see which playstyle would stick the most. Although it is possible some of the mini games and contracts will have some tie-in with the lore or whatever plans CCP has for all of this. We don't know what that is for certain, but we do have an idea of what they have in store for the players. CCP posted a recent video titled Vanguard in Focus, a Future Vision. In that video, CCP Berger, who is the creative director, CCP Rattati, the game director, and CCP Principal, who is the lead game designer, were discussing what they claim to be the future vision behind Vanguard. They were still rather mum about specifics, but two things in particular stood out from the video. Contraband and contracts appeared to be two of the key components for the future of the game, especially when economics is involved. This is probably where the gameplay loop will probably be established, but that's just my opinion based on my personal observations and what others on Discord have observed. The second thing was the mention of getting access to the event via one-time purchases. However, CCP did not specify the details about that. If there's one thing we have to be careful with here is how we interpret CCP's public statements. But to be fair to us, the players, CCP does not have a consistent track record of being careful with what they say or how they say it. CCP did consistently offer players of EVE Online discounts ahead of the playtests. They even gave EVE account holders a chance to redeem 7 days of Omega time, as long as they redeemed it by the end of the 19th of June. Since the Solstice event ran for at least 10 days instead of just a single weekend, many of the players who were attentive opted to wait until the 19th to redeem those free 7 days to take advantage of the opportunity to play the game. EVE Vanguard is currently only available to EVE account holders with an active Omega subscription. These players are known as the founders for EVE Vanguard. Now, before I finish off, I need to make a big disclaimer that my playtime during the Solstice event was rather limited. Many of you who know me understand why I was not so active during the playtests. I mean, come on. I was busy building arguably one of the most impressive EVE-related worlds in VR chat to date. I have an entire video planned out for that. And as you can see, so much has changed and progressed since the beginning of this project. So watch out for that in my next video. And as usual, fly safe. Alright, so a quick little addendum. This is post-scriptum without a script. I forgot to mention that the Solstice event that happened recently at the end of June was the last event that will happen for a while. CCP made an announcement in the Future Vision trailer that the next major update will be on November. So we look forward to that, though. They did post a roadmap not too long ago, a new roadmap, which will extend towards the end of November. And it breaks it down a little differently than what we've seen previously in the past 6 months, where like the previous roadmap had details on what to expect on each specific month. But in this one, though, it kind of like broke it down in a way where it's like, this is what they're trying to go for between now and November, and then the next major playtest is going to be in November. And so we'll see about that, though. And that's it. Again, take care.